Hello everybody. Great to see you all here. Yeah, as Declan said, I'm a focusing professional. I've been certified with the Focusing Institute in New York, and I've been professional now for about, I think, 4 or 5 years. And I came to focusing through my own deep suffering. I've had ME for 30 years now, and many of those years were spent severely affected. So I could not turn in a bed without assistance. I could not, at times, barely lift a cup. I could not send a text. I could not watch TV for more than a few minutes at a time. And it's been a long, long road to get from there to here, where I'm now kind of working part time, living independently. And in the summer, I went to All Together Now, the music festival, and was in a tent with three other people, which is like, I think any of you will know, it is nothing short of miraculous to me. And focusing has been a huge help for me along that way, a big resource. And how did it help me? Well, it helped me by allowing me some space to actually experience my symptoms without adding more and more panic to them, more resistance, more fighting. It allowed me to kind of just be more with what is. And it also helped me give a voice to so many of the difficult emotions that I was feeling, the loss, the rage, the fear, the anxiety. And so it was a huge resource for me. It also helped with my isolation, because you can do focusing online and you can do it in partnership with others. And there's a large online community of people doing it. So there was lots of ways in which it's helped me. And so today I want to share with you what is focusing, what is it. I'm going to share, it's hard to describe, so I'll also share a little guided exercise for you to get a feel for it if you want to participate in that or not. And then I'm going to talk about how you can learn it if you want to. So if that all sounds okay, I'll start sharing some slides, because I know sometimes I think looking slides and following slides is easier to follow than just listening to somebody. But if you want to lie down and switch off your camera and do whatever, that's fine by me. You just do what you need to do to feel comfortable, and as comfortable as one can be with ME, focusing, right? So one way of describing it is, there's many, many ways of describing it, but you could say it's a gentle process of being with what is inside of us. It allows us to get in touch with our feelings without making them worse. I know for me, I felt at different stages so many different feelings, but I also felt at one point so very angry, so very frustrated with the lack of proper healthcare, with the lack of understanding, and just frustrated by the condition itself. It's so limiting and debilitating, and it felt so unfair. But I also felt after a while, what is the point in me feeling this anger? It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to help anything. I just need to keep my head down and do what I can do. There's just no point in going over this anger. Well, Eugene Gendlin, who is the founder of focusing, and I can explain more about him at the end, he would disagree. He would say that what is split off and not felt remains the same. When it is felt, he said, it changes. And I found this was true, that once I could feel my feelings, they did move on to become something else. Not overnight and not all at once, but you could feel a shift that brought relief. And as Gendlin says, changing should feel good. It should feel like a relief and a coming alive. And I think all of us have tasted this at some time, where you maybe name a difficult emotion or you express it, and it just feels a bit better, just feels a bit better. And what I found for me, what I liked about focusing compared to therapy, now I didn't do much therapy, and therapy is different for everybody, but what I found after some of the sessions of therapy, I just always felt heavier, like I was dropped in this puddle of misery. And it didn't, I couldn't afford to feel any worse. I needed to feel something immediate. I needed something to really help me. And I found that focusing, I always felt a little bit better just doing it. And that's the experience of many people who've done focusing. So here are some quotes for some people who are currently learning focusing with me. And I didn't even, this just kind of came unbidden. And Michael was saying, I've changed their names, but Michael was saying, it's a lovely, silky, smooth feeling that feels really like me. And I love that description because I think it's quite accurate. When you go inside in this focusing way, it just feels so nice. Um, and then just doing it feels deeply satisfying. So this is Thomas who is saying, he finds that focusing is great to have as a resource to turn to when he has difficult problems. And just doing it is satisfying in itself. And Elaine said, it helps me be separate from my difficulties. It gives me a space to be with it. And it helps me separate at the same time. And yeah, again, this is, I think, the experience of many of us. Gendlin once said that focusing is an I being within it. So what he meant by that is we get this bigger sense of ourselves that are able to be with also all these parts of us that are also us and real, but we're trying to give space so that it's not all consuming. So really, a big part of focusing is we're cultivating our relationship with our inner selves. Because of course, we're always in relationship with ourselves. It can't not be. I mean, how many times have you maybe said to yourself, oh God, why did I walk so far? I really wish I didn't walk so far. I'm a bloody idiot for walking so far. And then start kind of beating up on yourself. I know I have done that a lot, and it's understandable, but it doesn't help, right? It's not a supportive relationship. I mean, if we walk too far, that's when we really need our own empathy and compassion, and nourishing. But often what happens, because we have something in us that's very afraid, it ends up being a kind of an inner match, a real kind of criticism or a beating up. And I found focusing helped me to just break that a bit more and to be more gentle towards myself. So focusing really works with helping us develop an inner relationship. Oh, well, how? Right? How? And so let me share the practical ways, just for those of you who don't know anything about this, that you can get a one-to-one session with a professional, which I always found really helpful because professional kind of guides you through it. You don't have to know anything about focusing to do that. You just come online to a session or in person, and the professional guides you to have a focusing experience. They're not directing you or interpreting anything that goes on for you. They're just guiding you to have an experience. Or you can learn yourself by attending a course. And I can give you details of a course. I teach courses, so you can learn yourself. And most people, that's a very cost-effective way to do it, because then you can partner with other focusers yourselves. And I think it's very democratic. I loved Gendlin's whole philosophy of, no one else, no one has this whole being a human thing pinned down. There really are no experts. So only you can know about you. And it's a peer kind of partnering. And even with the professional, there's hopefully that sense the professional is not an expert on anything except focusing. And so it's just very kind of egalitarian in that way. And then when you learn, you become part of an online community if you want, where you can do partnering. I just found that really helped me with my feelings of isolation. And it's the power of presence, really, is such a part of it. Our own presence and the presence of another human being, maybe if we want to do it with another human being who is not judging and who's simply listening. And that can be really, really powerful. another part that's a really important part of focusing is what's called the felt sense. So Gendlin, who's the founder of focusing, he discovered focusing by he was a philosopher and a psychotherapist in the University of Chicago. He worked very closely with Carl Rogers, and Carl Rogers said that he very much Gendlin influenced his work. But Gendlin was researching, why does therapy work for some people and not for others? And a conclusion he came to was it often worked when the person themselves, the person coming to therapy, was able to sense into their bodies and get what he called a felt sense for their problems. And when they could do that and listen in a very particular way, and then the next steps could come, something new could come. And he discovered that, well, according to him, only 1 in 1,000 people could do that naturally. So he said, well, why not teach this? And this is focusing, teaching us how to sense into what's here now without judgment, just with curiosity, and listening in this very careful way that allows next steps to come. And we have to teach a whole process and how to do that. That sounds maybe simple and obvious, but we have to kind of learn a whole way of doing that because most of us don't know how to do that. We've been conditioned out of it. And it was Gendlin who coined that term, the felt sense. It's used a lot now, but it was he who first coined the term based on his research. So focusing works on developing an inner relationship, on cultivating a feel for what's going on in our body, a feel for our problems in this bodily way that helps bring the next steps of change. And it really, it draws a lot on these kind of following powers: the power of listening, power of presence, power of the pause, so slowing down, sensing, and the power of language. We use language a lot, very specifically in focusing. So to help us relate to ourselves in this non-judgmental way. But I'm going to stop for a minute and talk a little bit about listening, how important listening is. I just want to say, that there's definitely strong evidence to say that humans need to feel heard. That there's 2 neuroscientists, I think Lieberman and Eisenberg, I think, they did some research in UCLA about how if a part of us, if we don't feel heard, that parts can flash in our brain that are often the same parts that flash when we have physical pain. That's how important being heard properly is to us. And I think you can see, AI, the chatbots, etc., they become so popular possibly because people can feel that they're talking to something, even if it's a machine that's not judging them. I think it's so important, especially, as I said, it's so important for everybody. It's really important for people with any kind of chronic illness, because chronic illness is not, it's not really recognized or valued in the culture. And so we feel invisible, or like you don't even have the right to be ill. And it's on top of all that you lose, this is here as well. And what I found focusing, because of the way it's set up, that the companion or the guide cannot comment or interpret or give advice, then it's just so freeing. You're able to really express, but someone is listening. Someone is listening. And of course, the important thing is, well, we're listening to ourselves. And I think this is what I realized is how much I needed to hear me. I needed to be present to me. And that's the inner relationship part. This I that can hear your parts, that can hear the one that's suffering. So much suffering goes on with this that goes unheard. You're just trying to get on with it. And it needs to be heard, though, for things to free up a bit inside. It was vital for me. I was dying inside because it wasn't happening. So, yeah, Esther, with Emmy, it's so wonderful to have a friend who listens and you feel validated, understood, because the majority of people don't understand it. Yeah, Esther, so true. And I think when other people don't understand, it almost feels like you start to doubt yourself in some way. I mean, obviously, in one way, you can't doubt it. It's so physically present, you can't doubt it. But you can start to think, am I overplaying things? Am I exaggerating? You really start to doubt. And for me, COVID in a way was a helpful experience because everyone found that so difficult. And I was like, you're only getting a tiny taste of what it's been like for us. And this is happening to the whole world with ME. It just happens to small little pockets of people. You're so alone. So it helped remind me, nah, I'm not overplaying this. Anyway, and Catherine, I think a mutual trust is vital to really feeling listened to. Yeah, trust is a big part of this. Friends, family, doctor reminds me of the term interception. Yeah, harder for us to know what we're feeling ourselves in our body. So true, so true. I think again, this is true for everyone, but I also think when you have ME, there's so much going on. There's so many sensations, so many symptoms. They're all really intense. And then there's all the anxiety and the stress and the trying to deal with the outer world. It is very hard to slow down and get a feel what exactly is happening in here. It's just very difficult. So I found for me, focusing was the best hands down in helping me do that because I had tried meditation and it was fine, but I really didn't feel I didn't feel it was the best use of my time, actually. Just personally now, this is personally for me. Obviously, everyone finds different things helpful or not. Um, so let me share a little bit more about just that piece about the listening and what the qualities of good listening are. I think the most getting how it is for the other, right? For me, a listener, they don't have to agree with me even. They don't have to agree or disagree if they just can kind of get a picture of what it's like for me. That sense of empathy. I just want to be understood. I just want to be understood. And then, as I said, what was so vital was even if I can understand myself, how helpful that is. Like, for example, in the last year, really understanding I have a lot of loss to feel and work through. This is kind of holding me back a bit. I thought I had like kind of dealt with it, but I really hadn't. I mean, I've lost 30 years and I'm still not fully better. So it's not like it's all gone. But even just knowing and hearing, oh, you're really grieving, actually. You're grieving your life. That's helped me. It's really helped me. Just getting how it was doesn't change the fact that it's been lost, but it does, the acknowledgement of it really matters. So acknowledging what is really helps. Gendlin has said, owning up to something doesn't make it worse, and denying it doesn't make it go away. But it's finding ways to do that isn't like full on jump into the vortex. It's finding ways to do that is supportive and gentle, and focusing is gentle. So not adding or interrupting as well, right? Who wants that? I mean, how often have we had that? I mean, even as I say, my best of friends, sometimes they'll jump in and say, "Oh yeah, I know what it's like," or "Oh yeah, I remember what that was like for me," or something similar, or just interpreting, right? Or offering advice. I mean, advice. Oh my God. Like, I sometimes dread saying to anyone I have ME because they'll be like, oh, well, I was sick for a year. And then they'll start telling me everything they did and what got them better. And I don't want this advice, right? Who wants advice without being asked for it? Talking about their own problems, then just launching into that, where you just want maybe someone to have that tenderness and empathy where you can feel heard. And so again, in focusing, we do this for ourselves. But I think the most important things are we have these qualities of being present, accepting, open, compassionate, curious, and interested. See, so being curious about our own inner life rather than assuming we know this. This is a really important part of focusing, where we sense freshly into what is rather than approaching everything with a story. Of course, we are going to do that anyway. We're going to bring our old stories, but we are trying to park that for a little bit, or even just let the story be there and sense freshly into our bodies as it is. Let me see what's next. Oh yeah, and we're really cultivating trust in our inner sense of rightness, right? Um, because for me anyway, if I had more of an inner sense of rightness, I would have not put up with a lot of stuff that I had to put up with from alternative practitioners, from people who may have been well meaning, but often I felt spoke down to me or judged me in some ways. And I plowed on, I continued going to them because I was really desperate and keen to get better. But as a person, they just weren't right for me, wasn't the right match. And I just was a little out of touch, my inner sense, my bodily knowing. My head was saying, oh no, but this makes sense, blah, blah, blah. Maybe they're good value, all the rest. But my body knew they weren't right. And I think focusing helps us get in touch with that inner sense of rightness. And I just hear what Vivienne said. I felt heard once I had an official diagnosis. That's great. Before that, I felt dismissed and judged. Yeah. Being unheard when you're sick is like shouting into a void. Your pain is real, but no one seems to notice. Elizabeth Scarr has written a book about pain, chronic pain as well. And she said, I think it's so true. She said, to have pain is to have certainty. To hear about pain is to have doubt. And, it just because we can't have a systematic, scientifically rigorous measure for, you are genuinely that sick, as opposed to, oh, well, you could try a bit harder. It just doesn't, I think we've got to really try and believe one another. And that's hard to do, honestly, in some ways, because often judgments get in the way and assumptions and conditioning. And it can be really hard to do with yourself, which is why I suppose what I found so helpful about focusing, because it taught the steps. So um, we're kind of halfway through now, and I'd like to offer a little guided exercise for those who are interested. Yeah, so I see one thumb up and a couple of nods, and I so this is, you know, because focusing is in some ways very simple and in other ways complex. So we have to break it down into little bits. So this is just one little piece of it's kind of a step. It's not really focusing per se, but it is a first step where we learn how to sense into our bodies and try and experience them without judgment, right? Just simply being with them as they are. And I won't go for very long on this, maybe 6-7 minutes. And if you're not comfortable with doing it, then don't. Just sit back and relax, switch off. I love Gendlin. Gendlin has these instructions on how not to follow instructions. And he says, if I can find my little sheet with them. Oh yeah, he said, adopt a split level approach to all instructions. This is for guided exercises like this. Yeah, Breed, I could totally relate to that. Adopt a split level approach to all instructions. On the one hand, follow the instructions exactly so that you can discover the experiences to which they point. On the other, be sensitive to your own body and your own experiences. Assume that only sound experiences are worth having. So what he's really telling us there is to kind of follow the instructions, but trust your own inner sense of rightness. If something doesn't feel good, if this feels like it's getting too strong or not right, then just pull back and stop. I mean, that usually doesn't happen with this. This is very gentle, but everyone's different, and people than me are very sensitive. So I really going to trust you to trust yourselves to do what's right for you. So Janan's idea, listen to the instructions, try and follow them, but trust your own inner sense of rightness. And he says, isn't that contradictory? And he says, yes, life is full of contradictions. Okay, so if your neck is okay and comfortable and feels okay, there's this lovely little orientation exercise from somatic experiencing, which can be really helpful to orient yourself into a room. And that is where you turn your neck to the left, look around the room, but only do this if your neck is okay. And you turn to the right and just notice how you feel after that. I feel a little bit more centered. If it depends what I do with my thinking. If I look around and take in the room, I feel like that. If I'm kind of thinking about everything else, maybe not so much. But so if it feels right, you might want to bring your awareness back from the screen and just get a feel for your own body, right? Just feeling your whole body here and feeling the support of the chair or the bed underneath you. Noticing what it's like to feel supported. Maybe you can see if you can let go and just rest into that support just a little bit more. Really feeling supported by the bed or the chair. And then finding those areas of your body that are in contact with something. So for most people, that begins with their feet. So maybe the soles of your feet on the ground or your heels on the bed, just sensing that. And then your bum on the chair, your shoulders. So you're not trying to make anything happen. You're just noticing what's here. And so I'm going to offer a few invitations now. And so the first one, I'm going to invite you to bring your awareness into that inner area of your throat. So if you had a sore throat, you know how you would be very aware of how it feels in here. So I'm just going to invite you to just bring your awareness into that area, that inner area in the same way. And just get a feel for it. So notice if you're becoming aware of a sensation. You're not forcing it. You're just noticing what's here. And how do you describe it? What words would come? Is it maybe it's scratchy or warm or open? You're really sensing with curiosity, what's here in my throat? How would I describe it? As if I've never sensed it here before. Sometimes that takes time, and sometimes no words come. And that's okay, getting a feel for what's in your body without words can be a very important step in focusing. You're just getting a feel for it. And if there's something here that you'd like to stay with, that's fine, but you can stay there with your attention. I'm going to invite you to move to the chest. Or if there's another area of your body where you feel you're really drawn to, you can go there. But for most of us, we're going to stay here in the chest. And you're just going to sense what's here. What's this feeling here in the chest? What are the words I would use to describe it? What words come again? And maybe it's an image that comes like open, wide, like an open door, or closed tight. Really taking your time to explore what's here very gently. Just with that nice, curious, interested, open attitude that a good listener might have. You're just exploring what's here. Putting words to it, sensing, describing. And then we're going to take a next step, which is called checking. So if you get a description for what's here in your chest, you bring those words to the chest and you check if they fit. So if you get tightness, is it tight or is it more constricted? Is it constricted or is it more like a vice? You're just checking the description against the feeling and noticing, does it fit? And if it does fit, how does that feel in the body? And notice if there's a tendency to say, I don't like this feeling. I'm sick of these sensations. I wish they weren't here. That's very natural, but just notice that that's happening and come back to the very simple and immediate act of sensing and describing. I found that when I was in lots of pain, sometimes this really helped me to just sense and describe what was. So in a minute, we're going to bring this exercise to completion. But before we do, you might want to check in with, how was this exercise for you? Was it calming? Was it challenging to simply sense and describe? Or was it something else? So before you open your eyes, you might want to just sense your feet on the floor and your bum on the chair. And then in your own time, peaceful, that's nice. You can open your eyes and come back. Um, yeah, so Sarah, you've said you found it peaceful. Thanks. Yawned a lot, releasing. Nice, Esther. Yeah, that is definitely a release to yawn. Do that a lot. Did you find it hard to follow? Very relaxing. Nice, Michelle. Thank you. Bit agitated. Yeah, that can happen. Challenging to tune in. Okay, thanks, Sarah. It can be challenging to tune in. Yeah, I don't know whether that was my voice or whether it's the situation. Okay, thanks. Calming. Is this similar to mindfulness? Yes. Thanks, Irene. I would say it's funny. I'll share a slide on that in a moment. My in the beginning, in this early stage, like an exercise like this, yes, that's quite similar to mindfulness, right? You're sensing and describing what is, but you the difference I would say between mindfulness or mindfulness meditation and focusing is that in mindfulness, and maybe some of you are more have more expertise in this area, you become aware of experience, right? In focusing, we're developing a relationship with experience. We're not just the witnesser, we are a strong self um, who relates from compassion. I found that bit very helpful for me because I am a human and I'm having a human experience and I want to relate to myself. Um, that's a great question, Irene. Okay, so let's see. Felt my pain. Okay, breed. Don't know if that's good or bad for you. Um, it's very difficult feeling our pain. Um, and I found sometimes when I did this though, I felt my pain in a different way where it felt a bit looser. Sometimes I did it and it did make it more intense. And I had to try and do kind of more afterwards. It's hard in a group exercise. It's hard to try and kind of go at everyone's pace and sense what they need in the moment. But sometimes it's good to feel your pain. I'm not sure if you felt that, Breed. Very new, but fitted in with other experiences and feelings about my issues. Yeah, Elizabeth, nice. Bad tinnitus when you're trying to focusing on it, but didn't like that as trying to ignore it. Right. So I think sometimes when um so I think sometimes Esther, when we have those, what I found sometimes helpful about sensing and describing was maybe not going to the vortex, not going to the most difficult area in your body, staying with other areas in your body which are not in pain actually helped resource me and cope better with the pain that was going on in my body. Um, so it's different for different people. And yeah, thanks for explaining that. So yeah, mixed reactions. That really is, it's so hard to try and give people a focusing experience in just a short exercise. And so here's the level one, if you're interested. In it, you'd learn how to, sense and stay with difficult sensations so that instead of them taking you over, you can give them a bit more space because they're here anyway, right? They're here anyway. And develop empathy and compassion for yourself and for all your inner parts that are at war with one another. Sense freshly into old problems to get new perspectives. I found this helpful, that I could get a new way of coping with this whole mess, right? Just gave me a new perspective at times and get a feel for the felt sense and the unclear edge. And then the partnering with other people, I think, is very, very helpful. Um, anyway, how would you do it? Well, we break it down into step by step. Each week, there's a simple worksheet. We do a short guided exercise in class that helps teach that particular focusing step. We watch a video of two people focusing, practice focusing together in the class. There's reading that you can read before class. It's only a few pages. And look, I know for people with ME, even that can be really hard. So I'd be okay about that, which is what would be the benefit of a group together where everyone is in the same boat and everyone understands. And I would try and teach the steps in the class as much as possible without expecting you to have read too much or remembering any of the reading. And so in the class, there'd be discussion and teaching and sharing. Normally, these classes are like 2 hours, but because with people like me, I know you need more breaks. So I would have it at half two to five, 15-minute breaks by two. And these are the dates. Look, I can send you the details. I don't want to waste people's time if you're not interested, but I can send you all those details. You'll have them on the slides. You can email me. We can have a free chat about it. And here's the price. It's 250, 220 if you pay by the 27th of February. If you email me if you're interested, I can give you a brochure. I can also do one-to-one sessions. Thanks so much for your attention. I know how hard it is when you're ill, and I really appreciate, I really felt you're all here with me. So thanks.